Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome in. This is the NinerNarrative podcast. I am Chunder Boy. I'm your host. And we are going to get into a few things tonight, but I want to take everybody back. I want to take everybody on a little bit of a journey of how we got here, because there's so many things going on in the 49er world right now, with injuries, with a non-quarterback controversy that's people are trying to turn into a controversy. With everything that's going on with our 49ers this year, I want to kind of take everybody back for a second, and then I promise we will get into some numbers as it pertains to the Atlanta Falcons a little bit later in the show. But for starters, I want to address some of the stuff that's going on. So clearly the 49ers are having another injury-plagued season. The 49ers, since 2019, when they arrived on scene as a team that was back to being championship-level competitive, have basically had two outcomes every season. They've either had a historically bad run of injuries, or they've made it into a championship game. It's like either or. This seems to be one of those seasons that's going to be injury-plagued, but this team is better than what's transpired so far. But the problem is there are some clear deficiencies. Those deficiencies are caused by the way this team was managed for several years leading up to this last offseason. And it's Kyle Shanahan's responsibility to coach them out of it. And the reason for that is not just because he's the head coach, but because he's the one that put him there. When we traded for Trey Lance, I was stoked. I was all about it. I thought it was the right pick. As pleased as I was that they decided to go with the guy who at the time was viewed to have the higher upside in Trey Lance over Mac Jones, the process to getting the third overall pick was off. When they made the trade, how much they made it for, and the fact that you don't trade 3 first-round picks, yours that year and the next 2, and then some, to trade up to a spot and you don't even know who you're drafting. They got bailed out by Brock Purdy, because that was one of the all-time bad organizational decisions in the history of the NFL. To trade that kind of draft capital and not even know who you're drafting. It should be intolerable. They got lucky. They found a starting caliber quarterback in the 7th round. The drafts that came after the Trey Lance draft pick were some of the worst drafts that I've seen in recent memory by any team. I don't know how many of those players are still on the team not named Brock Purdy, but can't be more than 1 or 2. The 49ers are in a situation they're in right now because of really bad organizational decisions. I love John Lynch. He was my favorite player growing up. My favorite non-49er. Maybe my favorite player, period. I loved John. And although I was pretty stoked when he was hired as a general manager, I was scratching my head and trying to understand why. No experience whatsoever. He had some experience doing some scouting for John Elway in Denver, I guess. This guy came out of the booth to be the general manager. The smartest thing he ever did was hire Martin Mayhew and I can't think of the other guy. He hired 2 guys to be his assistant GMs who had previous GM experience. He also grabbed Adam Peters from Denver. Our first several drafts were incredible because they had the brain trust. After their second or third season, Martin Mayhew gets hired out, and Carthon gets hired out, but Adam Peters gets his own GM job. 49ers had 4 future general managers, 4 general managers, including John Lynch, in the building to start this regime. Why they did so well. But throughout this regime, they've drafted poorly in the first 2 days. And that's because Kyle Shanahan has primary control of the first 2 days. Kyle Shanahan is a football genius. Kyle Shanahan is an incredible offensive coordinator. He's an incredible play caller, play designer. There are so many good things to like about Kyle Shanahan. There's not clear evidence yet if he's an incredible head coach, a great head coach. And there's actually a lot of evidence that is mounting against him that he is even a decent general manager. And at the end of the day, we're in the situation we're in right now with injuries. Okay. People are trying to say the injuries are not on Kyle Shanahan. Okay, 2 things. 1, if you're the head coach, it's all on you. I don't care if it's your fault or not. That's just like the baseline. But the other side of that is Kyle Shanahan literally hires the strength conditioning staff. He literally develops all of how they're going to practice, when they're going to practice, at what rate they're going to practice, who's going to practice, how many reps, and so forth. Now, he takes the advice of his strength and conditioning staff on doing so many of those decisions, but all of them are his decisions. The uncontrollable rash of injuries that have happened throughout this organization fall solely at the feet of this head coach. I don't want to get too caught up in this. I just wanted to take a little bit of a journey back to how we got here, because we are sitting at 4-2, and everybody's acting like we're 2-4. And the reason, and it's justified. It's justified. The reason the fan base feels like we're 2-4 is because we've had devastating loss after devastating loss. The losses feel bigger. Not just on the field, but off. You didn't just lose your 2 best defensive players. You lost the 2 top leaders of your defense. And one of those guys in Fred Warner was the leader of your entire team. He was the heart and soul of the 49ers. However, the 49ers losing is the wrong phrase. The 49ers not being able to get basic communications correct on the back end is not because they lost Fred Warner. It is the coordinator's responsibility to make sure that Renardo Green and Marquis Siegel and the other players that are on the field know what their responsibilities are. Tampa Bay shifted their strength in this game early on, and the 49ers got confused because they're playing combo coverages, and when the strength shifts, the combo coverages change. Almost every single broken coverage, almost every single big play that Tampa got in this game was because of that one thing. Guess what Atlanta's going to do a lot of this week? You're going to see them motion a guy late in the count over and over and over again because the 49ers secondary doesn't seem to be able to handle late motions. It's tragic. Now, we're going to get into a couple of things. This honestly is probably not going to be that long of a video today. But I want to get into some of the PFF numbers, and I want to look at Atlanta as well. But boy, did I pick a hell of a year to try to create a YouTube channel. Because this season, it's so weird. There's so much to be excited about. the 49ers quarterback goes down and their backup might be better. Maybe not a better quarterback, but a better fit for this team. One thing I will say is I think that his personality in Mac Jones, that is exactly what this team needs right now. The cloud that this team seems to have been under, not just from the pressure of success, but from the pressure of the business side of football. The business side of football has been really taking away from this team and what made this team great. Because the 49ers, on Tuesday, I streamed with Coach on his channel. One of the things that he said to me a couple of years ago, and I'm pretty sure he said this on his channel as well, he said the 49ers didn't just miss out on their championship window. They missed out on a dynasty. That's how good this team was. That's how much talent was compiled on this team in 3 off seasons. And he's totally correct. We were robbed of a dynasty. The 49ers are now in a situation where they're trying to cut a bunch of things. Okay. I just looked at it earlier today. More than half of the 49ers salary cap this season is not on the field. Either IR or dead cap. They're literally fielding a team with half of their salary cap. It's insane. Somehow they have not one, but 2 good quarterbacks. Somehow they have wide receiver. They have a system and a scheme set up so that wide receivers can literally be picked up off the street and put up back-to-back 140-yard games. How is it that the same coaching staff and the same organization that can do that can't figure out that they need to maybe invest just a little bit of resources in the offensive line so the quarterbacks don't keep getting killed, so that their most expensive running back in the NFL, or near that, if he's not the most expensive, actually has somewhere to go after you hand him the ball? The frustrations for this team this year are really starting to mount because they should be better than this. The 49ers entered this season with 5 Hall of Fame players and 1 or 2 borderline guys. And a handful more guys between Renardo Green, Dominic Pooney, some of the other players that they picked up in last year's draft, which looks like it was a really solid draft. And then they added to that this year another slew of really talented young players. It looked to me like this offseason that this team, as they progressed through the offseason, was going to have the perfect balance of veteran leadership and youth and exuberance. And it seemed to all be falling apart right before our eyes. So what do we make of where they're at? It's really hard to put your finger on anything because, so on the one hand, the 49ers have scraped together wins. That win against the Rams was so unique. Sorry about that. Because there's no way the 49ers should have won that game. What's even crazier is that going into this week against a team that just beat the brakes off of Buffalo last week, the 49ers are favored in this game. That was a lot of people taking Atlanta. The line is moving. The line's now 1.5. But here's some of the numbers for the game coming up in Atlanta. Overall PFF ranking, Atlanta is 17th, the 49ers are 19th. Right in the same area. Now, somehow, the Falcons have a power rank of 16th on defense, and the 49ers are 23rd. Atlanta's offense is 18th. 49ers is 22nd. Somehow they're both ranked 17th and 19th. I don't know what the heck PFF is doing sometimes. But I will say this. It doesn't matter if Brock plays or Mac plays. The 49ers have the better quarterback on Sunday. Michael Penix Jr.'s PFF grade is 58.4. Mac Jones is 72.2. He's probably going to be the starting quarterback. Passer rating from a clean pocket, 102.5. Mike Penix, 91.8. Passer rating under pressure, however, Michael Penix Jr. is better, and the Falcons bring as much pressure as anybody in football. That might be a real problem this weekend. Now, who have the Falcons actually played? They played the Bucs and lost. They played the Vikings, who really haven't done a whole lot this year, and won. They lost to Carolina, then they beat Washington and Buffalo. This team is all over the map. It's really strange. They're kind of all over the place. And they've already had their bye. It makes you sort of wonder if maybe they beat Buffalo because they came out of a bye. Maybe this is one of those teams that plays well. Lord have mercy. I'm sorry. It's late. So how do the 49ers do moving forward? Like what should we really think about this team? Well, it's simple. They should get healthier. Is it possible they get even more banged up? Of course. They could lose Trent. They could lose Christian. They could have to play their third string quarterback because both their quarterbacks are banged up. But assuming there's some sort of regression to the mean, the 49ers should get healthier and healthier. BA should come back at some point, although that gets more and more ridiculous. I guess week 10 now is something I saw today. They're saying there's no setbacks, but it took more than a year for him to get back on the field. It's odd. Kittle will probably be back this week. Pearsall may be back this week. If not, he'll be back next week. Ayuk's on his way back soon. The 49ers will be close to full strength on offense. However, it might not matter because their offensive line is off. However, if they can get some continuity on the offensive line, if they can get some wide receivers in there that actually can frickin' block, although I'm not sure Pearsall is that much of an upgrade in that area, Brandon Ayuk definitely is. If they can get a tight end in there who can block, we know that they're going to get that with Kittle. Then they can turn in a performance where their offense finally wins them games. You can't expect the defense starting, half of the starters are rookies, and their two best players and the heart and soul it's on IR. Your defensive line, half of them, two of them are in a club from broken hands. Half of them have been in the injury report or are still. The offense has to step up and outscore some teams. The problem is the way this team is designed this year, the way that they're going to have to win. It's not ideal. They're going to have to throw the ball 40 times a game. They're going to have to outscore teams. They're going to have to score in the red zone. They're not good in the red zone. They're going to have to get turnovers. They literally haven't had an interception in a historically long amount of time, dating all the way back to last season. They still don't have one this year. They've got to run the ball, especially be able to get rushing touchdowns in the red zone. There has to be a huge swing in the way the 49ers season has been going. There has to be a dramatic shift for them to actually turn this thing around and win enough games to be in the playoffs. 49ers are 4-2. They're going to have to win at least 6 more. The Atlanta Falcons. So the most important players to pay attention to, obviously, Bijan Robinson, Drake London. Drake London, overall offensive grade, 84. Bijan Robinson, 76.7. Not sure why that's not higher. Probably because of pass blocking. Yes, pass blocking grade is 51.5. He's 7th out of 51 running backs in the league. Drake London's 5th out of 123 wide receivers. Ray McLeod and Darnell Mooney near the back of that list. So is Casey Washington. Kyle Pitts is middle of the pack. The Falcons are playing really good defense, and they're overcoming a young quarterback. The 49ers are just scraping together wins any way they can with a decimated offense, a decimated defense. If the 49ers are going to make any sort of noise later this season after getting healthy, it has to start this week. They got to beat this team. You can't beat this team, then okay. I mean, you might still make the playoffs, but this team has a quarterback that's playing middle of the road, maybe worse. This team benched Michael Penix for Kirk Cousins. That happened once already. The defense is young and aggressive. Kyle Shanahan should be able to take advantage of that. The young quarterback and a somewhat limited set of skill players, because they really only have 2 dogs on that offense. Darnell Mooney's pretty good. Robert Saleh needs to be able to come up with a game plan that forces Penix into mistakes. And that defense needs to capitalize. But the primary issues we're having for this football team this year, there's no balance on offense because the wide receivers, the tight ends, and the offensive line, for some reason, all forgot how to block this offseason. On the defensive side of the ball, they're playing this bend but don't break style of defense, but the problem is the guys that they most rely on to make the plays in the critical situations are both out for the season. And on top of that, they're not getting any sort of critical plays by turning the ball over. They're not getting so they've had a couple of critical plays, right? The Alfred Collins punch out at the goal line, the short yardage stands that they've made. So they've made some plays, but the defense is going to have to hold the line, and the offense is going to have to win games. And I don't know if the 49ers can. I mean, that's just kind of where they're at. So the 49ers, let's bring up 49ers. Let's bring up some stats here for them. It's kind of one of those situations where, so in football, it's almost never as bad as you think it is. It's almost never as good as you think it is. The 49ers situation is not as bad as it sometimes may seem. Because for instance, the pass blocking in this last game against Tampa, Trent Williams was an 80, Colt McKivitz was a 76.8, Jake Tonjes was a 73.9, right? Only problem is the other three offensive linemen, Brendan Pooney and Colby, were all 56 and up. Dominic Pooney's pass blocking grade in this last game is 26.4, and that's probably them being generous. Connor Colby wasn't much better at 39.7. And Luke Farrell somehow has a single-digit number, 9.3 pass blocking. Didn't we get him? Didn't we pay him $7 million a year because he's one of the best blocking tight ends in football? Didn't we get Luke Farrell so that George Kittle could be utilized in the pass game and didn't always have to stand to block because we have a second tight end who can actually block? And didn't we have a guy 3 years ago that we let walk for less than that, who's one of the best in the league at that? What are we doing? Charlie Warner is over there. I think he's still in Atlanta. Charlie Warner is one of the best number 2 blocking style tight ends in NFL. We let him go, and then 2 years later, sign a different guy who's not as good for more money. That's the kind of process, the team-building process that the 49ers, it's head-scratching over and over and over again. They make terrible decisions and have to try to buy their way out of it. They moved Buckner so they can get a first and keep Armstead and Ward. I really wish they would have kept – I'm really glad they kept Ward. But I'm sorry, Buckner in a third is more valuable than Eric Armstead, Jimmy Ward in the first, especially when you seem to suck at drafting in the first round. It was a critical mistake. The process around how they ended up drafting Trey Lance, critical mistakes. The draft following that, critical mistakes. The draft after that, terrible. The 49ers literally have 2 good offensive linemen. And Trent Williams and Connor Colby. It's unfortunate. So for this game coming up, the 49ers honestly should win this game. There's a path to victory for them. Saleh has to do his thing on the defensive side of the ball against a young quarterback. Kyle Shanahan has to actually target Kittle and use him in the offense to score points and not just block for somebody else to score points. The offense has to get the running game going. You don't have to put 100+ on the board every week, but you got to give us 75. The 49ers are at the precipice. This game, although one game never determines a season, this game is a precipice game. The 49ers win this game, they go to 5-2, they maintain a stranglehold on the division, and they continue to build and hopefully get better, and they really make a run. They lose this game, they go to 4-3. The division is now in flux. And the entire season could slip away very quickly. The 49ers need to hold on for dear life, and they need to beat the Atlanta Falcons. And they can beat the Atlanta Falcons. We'll see if they do. If you like the show, please hit like, subscribe, give us comments. We'll go back and talk about them. This podcast is usually a lot of numbers and stuff. We went over a few of them, but I really just had some things that I wanted to discuss. And losing Fred is, as everybody has said, a gut punch. But there's an opportunity in that gut punch. There's an opportunity to see what Bethune has. There's an opportunity for other players to step up and be leaders on that defense. The thing that's maddening is losing Fred Warner shouldn't cost coverage bust after coverage bust after coverage bust. He shouldn't be the only fucking person on the defense that knows how to shift coverages when the fucking strength of the offense changes. It's infuriating. This is shit you do in high school. Strong left, strong right. You shift your defense based on the strength of the offense. Been doing this shit since Pop Warner. And we got professional athletes that can't get basic concepts correct. And they're doing it over and over again. And it's not just one guy. It's multiple guys on the defense. Real problems. 49ers can't block anybody. This last game, Kendrick Bourne came down to a crackback block on an outside zone play where Christian McCaffrey literally had one corner he had to beat in open field, and then he's off to the races. Not only did Kendrick Bourne miss the block, he literally olayed this dude. He missed entirely. He didn't even touch the guy. Everybody wants to talk about Christian McCaffrey lost a step. How about Christian McCaffrey can't even hardly get the ball before he has to figure out before he figures out how to make a guy miss? Because there's constantly guys in the run lane. Constantly. It's a frustrating season. I have faith the 49ers can figure it out. I have faith the 49ers will get this on track and they'll clean some of this stuff up because all of it is fixable. If there's nothing you take away from the rest of this podcast, know this. Every single thing they're doing is fixable. It is not a talent issue. They have the talent to make a run. It's not a talent issue. It's coverage breakdowns. It's missed blocking assignments. It's schematic issues. It's play calling. It's all of the above. It is not a talent deficiency. The 49ers, with all their issues, still have more than enough talent to win football games in the NFL. They should have beat Tampa. Without those coverage busts, it's not like we were just getting carved up by Baker Mayfield. We were giving it to them. We have to not give it away on offense, and we have to figure out a way to take it away on defense. We got to clean up the mental errors. We need to coach better so that we can play better. That's how this team doesn't turn into a massive disappointment. Come on back tomorrow. Next day, I will have another video going up about the salary cap. I may end up doing that Sunday instead of tomorrow. Depends on how work goes tomorrow. But I want to really break down a lot of cap stuff for you guys. I've been meaning to do that for a while. At the very least, I want to look at a lot of trade targets and stuff that are coming up. There's a list leaked with the trade targets on it. We'll go through them, see what some of the cap ramifications some of those guys are. Maybe play out some different financial scenarios. That should be a lot of fun. So, if you guys, again, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments. If you have statistical questions, if you have cap questions, anything like that, I'm happy to answer them. And although I'm frustrated right now with the 49ers as an organization, I have a lot of faith in this team, and I really do think they can get it turned around. This season, Kyle Shanahan and Robert Saleh have to coach their way out of it. I think they can. I hope they will. But we'll see. That's all for today. I appreciate everybody here. I appreciate everybody watching. Again, please like, subscribe to the video. Let's grow this thing. Let's do more content. Let's have more fun. And I will see you all next time around the sun.